The only way they can pay back that interest is by borrowing more money. So that society borrows more money, but that money which has been borrowed itself incurs interest. So borrowing continues and interest payment continues, but the amount of money in that society is fixed, and the debt of that society is getting bigger. What happens, sooner or later, somebody is going to default on his loan. He's going to be unable to acquire enough money because everybody is trying to make their interest payments, and there is less money in society than is actually required to pay back the principal debt and the loan, the principal debt and the interest. So what happens? People become insolvent to the bank, and what happens? The bank repossesses their property. So what is happening? The bank is acquiring solid fixed assets in return for something that was created out of fresh air. Now, when people in society become very effective at accumulating wealth, we say, hey, that's a smart guy, he's so good at business, he's making so much of money. The more money clever people are able to acquire for themselves, the more other people are not able to make up with their payments, because the amount of money in the pool is limited and is fixed. So what happens? You either go deeper in debt or eventually you become bankrupt. So what happens is, this system is designed to increase the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And in time, the haves have, those who are very wealthy in the higher level of society, have worked together in becoming the masters over the political system itself. And government and big business have linked together so that big business will continue to support government by the money it makes available, and government supports the big business through the laws it passes. And when you have this amalgamation, we have a system called fascism. And all our democracies today are effectively fascist states. And there are lots of characteristics of fascism, which is a topic on its own. So at this point, we realize that mankind is becoming indebted to the bank. In fact, in the 1960s, Professor Quigley, a history professor in a university in America, wrote a book called History of Our Time, Tragedy and Hope, A History of Our Times. And in this book, he states that the world is controlled by a small group of people, and that they owned over 50% of all the wealth on this planet. And what he said was, the reason I can give you this information is because I am one of this group. So why am I sharing this information with you? He says, I'm sharing it with you because you need to know that there is this group that's ruling the world and controlling the world. And if you had any sense, you will go along with their plan, because if you do, there will be hope for you. And if you resist, it's going to be a tragedy for you. And that's how he got the name of his book, Tragedy and Hope. At that time, in the early 60s, they already acquired over 50% of the wealth. Today, we believe it is way in excess of 80% of the wealth of the world is in their hands. And when we crisis that's taking place, I am left with no doubt that this is not something that has just happened. It happened by design. And when we look at the protocols of Zion, we see this in Protocol 20. Economic crises have been produced by us for the Goyim by no other means than the withdrawal of money from circulation. Think about it. And just think about this. The bank lends out money. We borrow that money, we have to pay back. We are all in debt. So in order to continue surviving, we have to continue borrowing more money to make the interest payments. What happens if the banks stop lending? When they stop lending and they call in their loans, we don't have the means to pay. And what happens? Domino effect with people after people going bankrupt. And that is how they create these economic crises. This is how they siphon off the wealth in society. And that is what we are living through right now. We are going through another one of these fabricated economic catastrophes. And out of this, they are hoping to create a single world government. They are already talking about a single world currency. They are already talking about a single world government. And we need to sit down and decide, are we going to let this happen, or are we going to make our contribution to make sure that this new order that develops is something that we have an input in, and is a new order which we are happy with, and that which is acceptable to us, because this new world order that they want to create is going to entrench our enslavement, and make us greater slaves. Any idea that we may have that we can work within the system, I believe is totally flawed, because working from within the system, the current economic political system, working from within it only gives it credibility, it strengthens it, it makes us more dependent and vulnerable, and in the end it actually reduces our chance of success. So first we realize we are slaves, and now we realize that we are totally indebted. We are indebted to our slave masters, that we are in a situation where the world is being changed and not for the better. At this point, it's time for us to take a break, and when we come back, we shall pursue our discussion further. God be with you. The reason why I keep mentioning that money is created out of fresh air is that while originally the money was backed by gold, there came a time when this backing was taken away, and the government simply issued a decree that these banks will no longer back the notes by gold. In other words, the paper became true fiat currency with absolutely no backing whatsoever. And what happened to the gold that belonged to the people that was in the banks? Or so they thought. That gold was just confiscated.
ونعيد الطهر إلى القدس من بعد الذل وذا العار من بعد الذل وذا العار سنخوض معاركنا معهم وسنمضي جموعا نردعهم ونعيد الحق المغتصب وبكل القوة ندفعهم وبكل القوة ندفعهم وسنمضي ندك معاقلهم بدوي دام يقلقهم وسنمحو العار بأيدينا وبكل القوة نردعهم وسنمضي ندك معاقلهم